You're listening to Ask When, the podcast. Folks from all walks of life talk about their daily hustle and bustle, living and celebrating life, sharing tips on becoming champions, especially for those who are muscling mental and physical disabilities. Ask When, the podcast, with your host, who has mustered over 30 years living with cerebral palsy and going strong. Author and cerebral palsy advocate Wynn Charles. Ask When, the podcast starts right now.
Welcome to Ask When, everyone. Today I have Mallory with me, and I'm going to let Mallory take it away and explain more about what she does.
Hi, Wynn. Thank you so much for having me. I am Mallory Whitfield. I am a professional speaker with a background in digital marketing and handmade art and craft shows and all sorts of things. I'm based in New Orleans, Louisiana. And I, last year, started a one-person show that's evolved into a whole social media movement. It's called Towards Together. And broadly, it's about diversity and inclusion through the lens of reframing how we judge ourselves and how we judge other people. So it's really about trying to shift away from so much judgment and trying to become more self-aware and more compassionate towards both ourselves and other people.
Well, how cool is that? I love diversity and inclusion. Geez, I am disabled myself, and so diversity and inclusion are my language.
Yeah. And diversity and inclusion encompass so many things, including disabilities, which I'm always trying to become more aware of all of the different issues with all of that.
Yeah. So why did you start this one-woman show?
Well, so I originally started writing it about a year or so ago, last spring. And I'd grown up doing a lot of theater, and I love performing and connecting with people in that way. And originally the show was called Embrace Your Weird. So it's kind of a play on this idea that we all have something that somebody else might consider weird, and we are all normal in our own ways, and yet normal is so subjective. So it's sort of playing with these ideas of what is weird and what is normal anyway. And I had this inspiration. I'd been working on bits and pieces of this show last spring and doing some smaller speaking engagements. And then I was just like, I really want to create this as a full, 1 hour show that I do myself. So I ended up renting out a theater venue here in New Orleans and just producing this show myself last summer. And I got help from other people to do some video clips for me and some animations and things that I use in the show. But it was a lot of fun, and I just wanted to be able to use my gifts and talents on stage to help share this message with other people in that format.
Well, how cool is that? Now, Mallory, if you had to move house and only take 5 things with you, what would they be?
Oh, only 5 things. I almost feel like if I could only have 5 things, I almost feel like I would just want to just start all over from scratch, Like I live here in New Orleans, and I've been thinking a lot about minimalism lately and trying to become more minimalistic and just get rid of stuff that doesn't serve me. So I almost feel like if I could only have 5 things, let's just start from scratch and just start all over again and see if I could do it.
Well, that's one way to put it. That's one way to put it. Take everything to the thrift store and just start all over again.
Yeah. I mean, things are sort of, they only hold the value that we attach to them. They don't necessarily have emotion attached to them unless we attach that emotion. And I'd rather have memories and experiences than tangible things.
Well, that's a lovely way to put it. Now, if your best friend was going to write a book about you, what would the title be?
I feel like it would maybe be Embrace Your Weird, which was the name of my show originally, except for the fact that that's already a book. I had to rename the show because the actress Felicia Day has a book called Embrace Your Weird that came out last fall.
Aren't you ahead of the curve, though? Luckily, you did research and found, oops.
Yeah, I very quickly changed direction, so it's a good thing I found that out.
Yeah, good thing. So, so it wouldn't be Embracing Your Weird because that would be Felicia Day's title. And so, um, what would it be if you could name it anything?
What would the book that I write, or what would the book that somebody else wrote about me?
What would the book that someone else wrote about you, for the exception of Embrace Your Weird?
Mallory's Malloryist Mallory Show. I don't know.
Aha. So you don't know. And what is your favorite book, and what is the title?
My favorites of anything tend to fluctuate depending on the kind of place I'm at in my life and my mood. But one book that I really love, which I've been thinking about a lot and recommending to a lot of people because of this moment that we're all in, is a book called When Things Fall Apart, which is written by Pema Chodron, a Buddhist nun. So this book I read originally about a year and a half or so ago, maybe a little bit longer. And I was going through a period where a lot of my current life felt like it was sort of falling apart. I was leaving my partner of 15 years. My full-time job suddenly became a part-time job. And then my elderly dog died. And this all happened within the course of like a month. Mm-hmm. And my therapist, I switched therapists, and one of our first sessions, he recommended this book. And I went and picked it up, and it's very much informed by Buddhism and just sort of accepting the way that things are, and that this idea that we often have of happiness is sort of fleeting anyway, but it's about being present in the moment and sort of accepting things. And that book helped me get through a time that was really painful for me. And I've been thinking about it a lot, as so many of us are sort of dealing with changes and uncertainty and this sort of scariness of this moment with the pandemic and everything.
Yep. So what is your morning routine?
My morning routine. I sometimes have that bad habit of picking up my phone and flipping through that before I get out of bed, although I'm trying to be better about that. I've been trying to watch like educational videos or something in bed instead in the morning to get my mind woken up a little bit. Definitely have to have coffee each morning and a shower. Those are two non-negotiables in the morning. So that's pretty much it. And then I get started with my day usually. And I'm used to working from home before all of this. So it's usually do all of that stuff and then head to my office at home.
Yeah. So as we wrap this interview up, do you have any questions for me?
Yeah. What are you curious about or fascinated by right now?
Oh, I'm fascinated by well, right now I'm trying to obtain a journalism degree, and so school is keeping me 10 times busier than I thought. And so I am curious about, once I obtain this journalism degree, how people are going to accept me as a journalist, because they know me as a self-taught journalist. I've been doing this podcast for over 5 years now, and so they know me as self-taught. But how in the world are they going to accept me as a journalist? And then I'm thinking about getting my psychology degree, which there will be a gap year in between you guys, because me coming out of journalism and going straight into psychology doesn't work. And so or I may become a house coach, but probably a psychologist. But I want to see how the journalism field accepts me as a disabled journalist.
Yeah, I would be interested to hear how that turns out once you get to that point.
Yeah. Well, right now I'm working on it, and so and so, where can people find you, and where can people get a hold of you if they choose to do so?
Yeah, so my website is MalloryWhitfield.com, and there's links to all of my different social media handles and everything there. And I also have more information about Towards Together and that movement at towardstogether.com. And I'm on pretty much all of the social media channels as either my name, Mallory Whitfield, or as Towards Together. Although I've definitely been trying to limit my time on social media lately, I'm still active on all of the channels pretty much.
I am.
Yeah.
Well, I agree with you. I'm still active, but I have two, so we're in the same mode. And so I appreciate your time this morning, and I appreciate you guys listening to Ask When, and I hope you enjoyed another episode. Keep yourselves happy, healthy, and safe, you guys, and let's make this world a better place. You guys, thanks, you guys.
You just listened to Ask When, the podcast. To become a guest in the show, visit our website at askwhen.weebly.com or call 816-591-3399. Just look for Danielle. Connect with Win on Twitter at WinKellyCharles and like our Facebook page at Butterflies of Wisdom. You can also purchase Win's book through Amazon.com or get a copy of the audiobook through Audible. Ask Win, the podcast.